Good morning from Naples, Italy. First of all, I'd like to thank so many of you for your support in purchasing or reading The Children of My Need. This morning, I will share an excerpt with you from my book entitled The Children of My Need. Chapter 1, In My Father's House. Sunday, September 15, 1963. I remember clearly, though more than 50 years have passed. The cool of the Birmingham morning was slowly surrendering to the scorching heat. The trees and high grass were loaded with cicadas, katydids, and locusts. Their cacophony of sounds competed with the faint chimes playing, just as I am, from the church in the distance. Just as I am, Lord, just as I am. Church was a respite for all the commotion going on around us. Leaders in the civil rights movement instructed all the Negroes to stop shopping at the stores in downtown Birmingham, and people complied. Some folks said business downtown was so slow now that you could see grass growing between the cracks in the sidewalks. I stood by the rip screen door, waiting to go to Sunday school at New Salem Baptist Church with my two older brothers. I was 10 years old. In the front bedroom, Dad was lying on the quilt made by hand a long time ago by my grandmother, Ma, friends from the neighborhood, and Dear. Dear was the name my older brother gave my mother when he was 3 years old. Dad was watching one of those Sunday morning religious television shows he hated and taking an occasional drag off an unfiltered Camel cigarette. Sometimes he let me roll those cigarettes. I loved the smell of the tobacco as I licked the thin white paper to seal the job after returning the excess tobacco back to the colorful tin can. Those preachers with those prayer cloths, the healing portions, and their highfalutin talk are nothing more than charlatans and thieves, Daddy said. Dear cringed. Not only was she a Christian, but she was also a devoted church worker, one of the stalwarts in the choir. Whenever the doors of the church were open, Dear was there. When the choir director asked her to lead a song at the 11 o'clock service, she displayed a mild displeasure. But everyone knew how important the choir singing and this brief moment in the limelight meant to her. Don't talk like that in front of the boys, Dear said to my father. You ought to know better. The Lord doesn't like ugly. For Daddy, those religious TV shows were strictly entertainment and nothing more. Tell that to those lying-ass thieving preachers, he said, taking another puff off his royal Owens before sending another wobbly smoke ring into the stuffy Alabama air. Damn preachers, hair all slicked back with Murray's pomade, head so full of grease, it's no wonder they won't step off that pulpit and break their necks. I wanted to laugh, but I knew better. With my brothers scurrying around trying to get dressed in their Sunday church clothes, this was no time to upset Dear. The men in my church wore denim overalls and blue jeans, but Dear insisted we look our best in God's presence. My older brothers, Archie Lee Jr. and Apple Lord, were already dressed for church and decided to go on without me because I was making them late. My shoes weren't quite dry. My hair wasn't combed, and my face still had not been greased down with Vaseline. Dear went back to the kitchen to check on my shoes. Her tall and slender frame stretched across the porcelain counter as she tried to watch the Griffin shoe polish, along with the sole and heel dressing stains from her hands. Occasionally, she checked the remaining pairs of not quite dry leather shoes as she hummed the gospel tune she had been rehearsing for days. Meanwhile, they also watched the blue flame lap at the old pressing comb with the burnt handle, which rests atop one of the two working burners on our stove. When the iron was heated enough, Dear slid through her shoulder-length black hair, which sizzled as clusters of smoke floated to the ceiling. The smoldering Dixie Peach pressing oil filled the house with a familiar smell. Every Sunday, Dear went through this hair ritual, which took what seemed like hours. Once she had her hair fixed just the way she wanted it, she slapped one of those two cheap wigs on. Dear's long, beautiful black hair was much nicer than any old fake hairpiece. I often told her how pretty her hair was, but the compliment would have meant so much more coming from Daddy, who only had nice things to say to Dear on rare occasions or after he thought we children were asleep. I continued waiting by the screen door, trying to blend in the dark wire mesh and not to be noticed by Dear or Daddy. Sundays were serious and no time to laugh at Daddy's bad mouthing of God's servants. But our house had a lot in common with other houses on Sundays. The women did, children were made to do, and the men watched the doings. My brothers decided to go to church without me because I was late for Sunday school. The walk to our church was a short one. I dilly-dallied, fascinated with the bumblebees dancing and darting about the yellow and white honeysuckle bushes. It was a sweet, sweet Birmingham morning until Dear's voice cut through my lackadaisical attitude and stung me. If you don't get away from there, it's going to be too wet to plow. This was Dear's way of saying that the tears I would shed after a good whipping would soak the earth. At that moment, a huge noise cracked the air. It sounded like 1,000 locomotives crashing. The earth shook. I turned toward the house. I saw terror on Dear's face as she peered through the window. Her words froze in her mouth. I stumbled, falling and crying away from the sound, back toward the house. I fell into the screen door. I ran past Daddy, not stopping until I was in Dear's arms. I ain't never heard no noise like that before, Dear said, pulling me closer to her. Dad, startled, ran about the house, cursing, seething with anger. I thought he was mad because the noise kept him from watching his Sunday morning TV shows. Then I heard him spit out Martin Luther King's name as if it was a bad taste in his mouth. I'll bet you a dime to a bucket of bullshit Wallace or Bull Connors behind this, he grumbled. And where the hell is that king now? Dear nodded in agreement. Ever since those civil rights people came to town and she lost her job as a cleaning woman, Dear had few favorable things to say about King and his idea of equality. It seemed King frightened everyone with his talk of freedom. Dear said all King's speech did was get her and some of her neighbors fired by white people from their jobs. These are just words, Daddy said. If they don't mean shit to white people, you know damn well they don't mean anything for us. All that niggas is doing is stirring up trouble and causing decent people to lose their job and what little credit they got. When white folks start kicking our ass, where he gonna be? I tell you, somewhere marching and making one of those damn speeches. I'm gonna go out and see what the hell happened, Daddy said, his voice quivering. Y'all stay here and don't open that damn door for nobody. He slammed the door behind him. Nobody, damn it. Dear rocked me in her arms. Everything's gonna be all right after a while, she said. Everything's gonna be all right after a while. She said this over and over so many times, I had to look at her mouth to see if she was singing or talking. Minutes ticked by. We couldn't tell if the loud noise came from down the street, downtown, or from across town. Some of the men from our street congregated in front of our house. Some of them were Daddy's drinking partners. They seemed to agree that the sound was definitely an explosion, maybe a bomb, but no one could figure out where the noise came from. We listened for clues, for screaming sirens, police cars, or ambulances. There was nothing. Dear turned up the sound on the radio she played softly each Sunday morning. At first, it was the usual gospel music, and then we heard the announcer say, the 16th Street Baptist Church had been bombed. As a child, I thought, how could that be? The church is where God lives. No one is right now would blow up God's house. Then we heard from the WJLD news desk, this just in. 4 little girls believed to be dead, killed while attending Sunday school at the 16th Street Baptist Church. I tried to imagine this. I figured out they were probably girls about my age. I imagined 4 small, bloody, twisted bodies lying lifeless under piles of brick and mortar. Tears streamed down Dear's face. I wiped some of them away with my small hand, but I was scared. My jaws locked, my stomach quaked, and my chest felt as if it was going to cave in. Little lines of sweat trickled down my face. Maybe they're coming for us next, I thought. By this time, Daddy stomped through the house, waving his shotgun and screaming, the bastard ought to be killed, and probably end up going free. He said he heard someone say that Dr. King shared the blame for those 4 girls' death. Before that day was over, we heard more about what happened. At 10:22 a.m., a bomb exploded in the downstairs basement where Sunday school was held. My friends Anna Iris and Alfred Knight were injured in the blast, but not severely. Both came to school the following day wearing bandages on their arms and legs. Anna Mae Collins, Denise McNair, Cynthia Wesley, and Carol Robinson were the 4 little girls who died, crushed to death by hatred that suffocated Birmingham for as long as my young mind could remember. We had come to accept this as a way of life in the South. But now, 4 girls deal with thousands of living children were able to do. Their killings captured the attention of the world, which seemed astounding that anyone could hate black skin so intensely that they would blow up children. The message scheduled to be heard at church that morning was, the love that forgives. Although one senseless act of violence catapulted my hometown and the plight of blacks in Birmingham to the front page of major news organizations all across the country, the local newspaper didn't mention the bombing nor the 4 tender lives lost under a wall of brick and rubble. Not a word. The lack of newspaper print did not make a difference in my life. I knew what happened, and I would never, ever forget. Which meant, in some way, that morning would never end for me. I was a child who, before that day, I could not fathom such hatred. Yet, that one morning made me a prisoner of fear, because it showed me that white people could kill me whenever they wanted to. They could pluck me right out of the hand of God Almighty himself. I pressed my head deeper into Dear's bosom until I could hear her heart beating. After Sunday, September 15, 1963, it seemed to me that whites outside of Birmingham were more sympathetic to the cause of the civil rights movement and less vicious toward black people. There was also a noticeable decrease in bombings in the black communities. Looking back today, I see a collage of fear. A 10-year-old boy resting his forehead against a framed screen door. My mother behind me, the woman who loved me dearly, but could not always protect me from my father's wrath. In front of me, I see the winds and hail of racial alienation. There was no refuge for me. There was no place to hide. Years later, I wonder if my search for a home for my heart was fed significantly by this hatred in Alabama and this unbelievable cruelty on that Sunday morning. One day, I would flee from my native town only to find that a change in physical location offered little reprieve but such a deep aching in my soul. Every heart longs for a place to feel safe, a land where it could be loved and nurtured. My heart began to long for this even before my mind could comprehend this nagging, longing, and hurt. Thank you for listening.